We got
Alvin
another.
in North Carolina wants to talk about Bible patterns. How are you, Alvin?
I'm fine, Matt and Jenna. I am the author of the theory of biblical patterns. Have you ever heard of it?
Is it similar to the Bible code?
No. This is not Bible codes or numerology at all. This is patterns. It's completely different.
No, I've never heard of it.
Okay, then.
Okay, well, you can find it in any search engine. But basically, the theory is 100 patterns in Genesis 1:1 that are beyond chance. In fact, they're way beyond chance and way beyond mortal capability. And the question is,
wait, did you say 100 patterns that are in Genesis 1:1?
Yes,
In one verse of the Bible, there's 100 patterns.
Yes,
That verse says, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth," and you say there's 100 patterns in that verse.
Can you start naming them?
If you do a Google search and go to the theory of biblical patterns, you can read them, and it's a very provable. Every pattern is very provable. There's no question that they're there. They range everything from very simple to very complex.
There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 English words in that verse, and you say there's 100 patterns in that verse. Let me pull up the Hebrew and find out how many Hebrew are the patterns there in Hebrew, or are they just there in English?
No, they're in Hebrew. There's 7 Hebrew words.
And you got 100 patterns out of 7 Hebrew words.
Yes,
Okay. Did you get a Nobel Prize for this?
Well, they don't give Nobel Prizes to Christians, I don't think.
Well, they would if Christians ever actually did anything that was demonstrably true and in the benefit of society.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I mean, do you want to hear about some of these patterns? I mean, I can tell you about some of them. Like, for example, pi, e, and alpha are in Genesis 1:1, and its corresponding verse, John 1:1 in the New Testament. If you just take the letters times the product of the letters over words times product of the words, in Genesis 1:1, you get pi to 5 digits, and you do the exact same equation in John 1:1, you get e to 5 digits.
But none of that is remotely surprising, nor does it demonstrate the truth of anything.
Why would you? Yeah.
Well, just that pattern alone about pi, e, and alpha is like in the trillions of probability, like 1 in a trillion.
Are you a mathematician?
I'm a mechanical engineer, but I've had it scholastically verified by a mathematician, Dr. Max Zhang of the mathematics department of Campbell University. He's looked at the math, and he's verified all the math.
Yeah, the problem is you can find stuff like this when you start doing calculations and manipulating things. How do you discover what the correct rules are for how to properly view a passage in the Bible?
Well, I'm not a theologian. I'm basically just talking about the patterns themselves.
I asked how do you know what the rules are? Because like somebody emailed me the other day and they had a picture of their brother and the date that their brother died. And they had a picture of their grandmother and the date that their grandmother died. And as long as you put those dates in month-day order, then map them to an alphabet, you get an H and an O. And then for their grandmother, you get an L and a Y. And they were convinced that this was a message from God, the word holy, in the 2 dates of 2 people who had died in their life. Now, first of all, you have to have month, day in that order and not day, month as it would be outside of the United States. But also, how do you know which people to pick and which dates to use? So there needs to be some description of how you can use a passage, because if it's just a matter of we can take the words in there and the Hebrew words, which are also numeric, and recombine them in many, many, many different ways, then it's absolutely unsurprising that you will find anything. And what you're doing is on a par with the Bible codes. It's just not an equidistant letter sequence as a necessary mechanism, which, by the way, works for Moby Dick and other things as well. So how do you figure out what's the right way to do math with verses?
Well, that's what I went over with Dr. Zhang. It's a probability equation where you put in how many can occur, how many do occur, and so forth. And just let me just give you another example of the 7 adjacent words has numbers and letters evenly divisible by 7. But there's 28 possible adjacent words, and 7 of them are divisible by 7. Well, that's a fourth. It should be a 7. If you put it into the mathematical calculations I went over with the doctor, that's 1 in 10. So there's only a 1 in 10 chance that those 7 adjacent words would all be divisible by 7. But if you take all...
But what does that tell us?
Excuse me?
What does that tell us?
What does that tell you? Well, if you take all 100 patterns, they add up to a chance in 1 in 579 zeros that they did not happen by chance.
Have you tried this on any other, like the Quran or anything?
Well, I've looked in a lot of places. I don't find it anywhere else. I only find it in well, I've only... Actually,
Did you look? I asked you, did you look in the Quran or other religious texts? Did you try this? Did you try everything that you're trying to do to the Bible? Did you try those to other religious texts as hard as you tried on this?
Well, to answer your question specifically, no. But what I do is I take random numbers and so forth and compare it. And
there's the flaw in your methodology. There's the flaw in your methodology. You can't just compare it to randomness, because language is not random. And so of course you're going to find patterns within languages, because languages are conducive to patterns in a way that randomness is not. So there's at least one flaw in your methodology, but I will look up the information. I don't see how it's going to get us to any sort of God, but we're going to move on.